50s, the early 50s, my father passed away. He was very young. He was in his early 50s, in fact. And my father was in the grocery business, and my mother continued on with the business. And I never liked the business, and that's when I started driving a cab. And I used to do the things that most guys my age, like say 23, 24, and so forth, in that age bracket. We used to hang around what we called what was the hot shop in those days. That was the local hangout, and that was one of Marriott's first ventures into big business as such. And we had a certain hot shop uptown that every night, just like clockwork, we'd go up there because we knew somebody would be there. If you've ever watched that show on television, Happy Days, it's the same type of thing, where the crowd assembled every night. And these were not teenagers now. These were young adults, I guess you would call them. And from there, everything emanated from there. I mean, we'd go out, get something to eat, we'd go to a movie, or go to a burlesque show or anything, and we'd even wait till late at night, 2 o'clock in the morning. We'd take a trip over to Baltimore just to get a sandwich or something. We were that type. And we used to do the same things. The kids in those days were a little different. I mean, we'd go out on Saturday night. We'd dress to the T's. I mean, we'd have, in those days, the big thing were the ducktail haircuts and the suede shoes and the one-button rolled jackets, double-breasted overcoats, and you always wore a hat because if you didn't wear a hat, we were always told that we weren't completely dressed. So we wore a hat everywhere we went. We looked like the junior mafia almost walking down the street. And generally we'd go to the beaches in the summer on the weekends. We'd go up to Atlantic City. We'd go to local beaches down near Annapolis on a Sunday afternoon, get dates just like anything else. And some of the guys were into gambling, and they'd go have their card games. They'd go to the racetrack. Everybody had their own little thing that they used to like to do, So we just had a general easy time of it. It was a good period of time for us. I mean, life wasn't too complicated. We didn't need brand new cars like some of the kids have to have today. For me, I had cars that were always 10 years old, and I was always used to pray and hope that they would get me where I had to go for the most part. And I was sort of daring in a way. I'd take the car on long trips and never worry about it. I might have 2 bald tires on there. Things like that didn't bother us. I mean, we weren't reckless, but still, we just had an easy time of it. It was just a easy way of life. In fact, the big fad came out. I have to laugh when I think about it. It was called cardigan jackets. They were sport coats without collars. The musicians started the fad. And I remember I got my first one, and my father looked at that, and to him that was so way out, he couldn't believe it. And even though I was wearing a tie and shirt, very neat, with the suede shoes and my perfect, I couldn't understand that jacket, though. And when I look at the kids today, some of the things they wear, and I look back at that was mild compared to what they're doing today, with their clothes. So the 50s were a good period of time. See, my father was a little different. As long as he had a roof over his head, he was from the old days, he believed in having a roof over your head, food on the table, and clothes on your back. Nothing fancy. If you had one car that ran well, he was satisfied. He was easily satisfied. That's one reason I don't drink today, maybe, because it wasn't in the house. I never thought of it, and I don't even like the taste of it, really. But, my life was rather simple at that time. I mean, my mother used to get up in the morning, make everybody breakfast, and we'd be running to school or work or whatever we did. And my father would go off to work, down in the store and all. And I'd come home at night, and next time I'd see the family, it'd be evening, when I'd get off from work and all. And we'd eat dinner, and then that's when television was just coming around. I mean, we got our first set in 47, but it was still black and white in the 50s yet. And we used to come upstairs and watch the various shows, and my grandmother was living then with us. And my grandmother was, at that time, probably in her 70s, and she loved anything rough. I mean, it had to be football, it had to be the wrestling match. Another big thing in those days was the roller derby. That was very popular on television. She loved it. She went crazy for that thing. And that was generally the way things were. We used to like to watch the